What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today's video we're going to be going over my experience at the dealership purchasing my 2017 FJ09. So after seeing an online price of $7,000, I immediately called them after I saw the bike and I put a $200 deposit down just to make sure that nobody else would get the bike. So this is the best deal for the bike that I could find within a 150-mile range with the miles that it has. So it definitely caught my eye. I was interested in it, and like I said in the first video when we got it, when we first picked it up, this bike is mainly for my fiance and I to go on two-up rides and enjoy some time on two wheels together. So when I got there, the sales tag was $8,599. So that was my first concern. And if you didn't know about the online price, if somebody just walked into the dealership, they would have seen that tag and then they would have built the deal off of that tag, which would have been more expensive than, $1,600 less from the online listing price. So of course the salesman walked over, he knew I was looking at the bike, and I told him, I just put down a deposit for an online price of $7,000. So I don't know why you guys have a tag here for $8,600. So he said, well, this is just what the tag is. I'm not sure what the online price is. We're different departments, this and that. So I told him, well, I'm not going to buy this bike if you guys are, listing it at $8,600 when I already put a deposit down for $7,000. So he went to the sales manager. He came back. Sales manager honored the online price. So then we started looking more into the bike. So after we started looking more into the bike, that's when I noticed a lot of issues that weren't shown in the online pictures. So the chain was rusted, but it was sprayed with fresh grease. The hubs were completely dirty. There was rust on the inner rotors. The rear hub was completely filthy with lube. The engine casing also had some chain wax that was just kind of caked on there, and some road grime that was caked on there. Even the chain guide was just completely caked. So in general, the bike was completely just not touched. It did come with Shinko tires. I guess maybe the previous owner didn't swap out the original tires that came with the bike, so then they had to legally put on some tires. So they threw on some Shinkos, which they're really not good tires. After some break-in miles, there is no, grip at all, even after the break-in miles. So they put the cheapest tires pretty much on the bike. They waxed that chain out to make it look nice and just threw it on the showroom floor. So the salesman, we go, to the table, start doing the credit check, this and that. So he brings out the paper with, the full breakdown of the price. So besides the sale price of the bike, there was an ADM fee of about $1,400. So ADM fees are normally only on used bikes because that includes the labor, uncrating it, filling it up with fluids, getting it all put together, getting it showroom ready, cleaning it up, all of that. So ADM fees are usually never on a used bike. But for some reason, this entire dealership is charging ADM on everything that is used. I don't know if it's because of inflation, whatever it is. It was what it was. So then I asked the guy, what are these ADM fees for? This is not usually something that's done on a used bike. He said, oh, it's for, getting it back into inventory, reconditioning. So I said, reconditioning? So I walk over to the bike and I said, I don't know what sort of reconditioning you did. I took my hand and put it on the inside of the front wheel axle or the wheel, and my hand was black. And I said, reconditioning? You guys didn't even touch this bike. So I don't know what reconditioning you guys are charging for, but this bike, you guys slapped some grease on it and then you just threw it on the showroom floor. So he said, I don't work in service, but this is what we have right here. So if you want to buy the bike, we can make a deal. I said, well, I'm not going to make a deal when you guys are charging $1,400 of ADM. If you guys come down $400 on the ADM, we can talk about having a deal. On a side note, I was willing to clean up the bike. Due to the low mileage and getting that, $7,000 online price tag, or at least that was the price of the listing. It wasn't a bad deal. Yes, all bikes are high right now due to inflation and everything that's going on in the world, but for $7,000 before all the other fees, you know, I was willing to pay the little bit of ADM and then just clean up the bike myself, make some videos, make some content, this and that. So the salesman goes over back to the sales manager. Sales manager comes back and says, nope, he's not going to drop the ADM. I said, well, then if that's the case, I'm going to be leaving. And I also want my deposit back. I'll be happy to Uber out of here, you know, without this bike if he's not going to come down. So he's like, well, okay, let me go back to him. So he goes back to him like 2 to 3 times. And I keep telling him, like, I'm not going to buy it unless you drop the ADM. So if you want a sale, drop it or else I'm out of here. So then at one point, the salesman literally said to me, you know, if you don't want this bike and, you know, what we're charging for it, there's a bike right there, you know, that you can look at. But if you don't want this one, like, I don't know what to tell you, I suggest you look at another bike. Completely rude and unacceptable for customer service. So then at that point, I told him, listen, well, with that being said, like, I'm not interested in doing business with you guys. I came down here for this bike and it was not in the condition of the pictures that were shown, so I'm gonna leave. Then the salesman walks over to the sales manager, and then he comes back, he says, okay, he'll drop the 400. So then we make the deal. So after we finished up the deal, I got the bike, I rode it home, probably about a 40-mile ride. I put it in the garage for the evening, and, you know, I planned to start working on it the next day. So then the next day I get back to the bike, and then I noticed some oil leak in the garage. So at that point, I really needed to do, you know, a full inspection and find out where this oil leak was coming from. So it turns out that the oil leak was from the belly pan, and the original owner shaved down the corner of the belly pan to fit the aftermarket exhaust. So he also put a little orange piece in between the exhaust and the belly pan, I'm assuming to prevent rattle. But basically from that little bit of shaving, those oil pans are very thin. So from that little bit of shaving, when the oil heats up, it gets thinner. So then there was a little pinhole that it was leaking oil on. So the oil was leaking onto the collector pipe and also onto the ground. So on my ride home, I could have spun out because of oil on my rear tire. And I actually felt something was a little off when I was riding, but I didn't see any spots or anything wrong when I pulled over. So after looking at the bike as well, there was dots on the rear tire. And if I spun out, they would have been in a lot of trouble. So let's shoot over to the garage for a full walk around of the condition of the bike, so you guys can see what the condition was when I brought the bike home. Well, we're back in the garage, so let me show you everything firsthand. So if you can see right there in the corner of that oil pan, the previous owner shaved down the oil pan to fit the exhaust system. And in between that shaved down area is where they put this orange rubber piece, which you can see on the mid pipe was burning into the mid pipe, or the collector pipe, I'm sorry, from the headers. And oil has just been burning on here forever. So whoever installed this exhaust had absolutely no clue what they're doing. Here's the actual can itself. It's not in the worst shape, besides the logo, a little scratched up. I might clean this up and see if someone locally wants to buy it at a affordable rate. But this whole system, it's usable. It's definitely usable, but it's just really not in the best shape. Even the headers, I know it's a little bit dark. Let me move the light real quick. But as you can see, even in the header system, these things were just tarnished. I'm not even sure if the guy even used gaskets based on his installation experience with filing down an oil pan to fit an exhaust system. That's not how you do it. So, not only that, but with your O2 sensor, you put anti-seize on the threads. You put anti-seize because these things heat up. Your exhaust heats up. And when metal heats, it expands. I had to use this huge crescent wrench to get this O2 sensor off, and we stripped the threads. So not only do I need to buy a brand new oil pan, but brand new O2 sensor, because those threads are destroyed, and because I don't trust or even like the look and quality of the work that this guy did with this exhaust system. Another exhaust. I found a used one. It is a Black Widow, which I do love on these triples, so they do sound good. It's used, but it looks in great shape. So I'm going to be picking that up later this weekend, but we did have to order a whole new oil pan to replace this one because the leak is coming out right from that corner. We drained all the oil, so to get ready to replace the pan. But the point of this is, and the reason I want to show you every little detail, is that Del Amo Motorsports having this bike, and I'll even put a picture up to show you. We drained the oil. The oil was brand new. It was not even used. So they definitely changed the oil on the bike. That's great. But when you change the oil on the bike, you start the bike, you let the oil run through the filter, you let it run through the entire motor, so to get everything lubricated. Then you wait 5 minutes, then you let it settle, then you check your level to make sure that your oil's at the right level. There is no way in my mind that there was not a leak in their garage floor from that hole on this pipe that they did not notice. Am I saying that they put the orange piece, orange rubber piece that rested against here, which also rested up against the oil pan? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can't say it's them. I also don't know if it's the previous owner of the bike. But there is no possible way that they did not see a drip or drips from this bike after doing an oil change. And like I said, I'll show you the pictures. The oil is clear. It's not dirty. I mean, not clear, but brand new color. It looks fresh. So I don't know. When oil heats up, it does get thinner. So that also is reason to believe that they would have noticed a drip. And then hopefully, with that reconditioning fee that was discussed, would have seen this, or even inspected the bike to see that there was an oil leak. I mean, look at that. The whole bottom piece has oil on it. How could you not see that? I literally rode the bike home and had drips in my driveway. There's no way you could have done an oil change and not have, or at least, even if you didn't do the oil change, if you did a thorough inspection of the motorcycle, you would have noticed that. So, was I aware that this bike needed work? Yeah, I was. As you can see here, I have my light. Hopefully you can see those brake pads. Maybe 25% left, 20%. Front's pretty much almost worn down. Look at how dirty the front hub is. Look at the rust on the inside of the rotor. Let's go to the other part of the bike. Look at the rust on these radiator clamps. Look at the one up here, or right here. Look at how filthy the kickstand and rear sets are. Look at the chain guide. Do you see all that? They didn't touch this thing with a rag. They didn't touch this thing with any sort of love. Looks like something's also leaking right there. So we're gonna have to inspect that. Actually, that just looks like heated up chain grease. But yeah, look at the condition of the rear set. Now let's look at the chain. Chain's worn. There's areas of rust on the chain. But, hey, they slapped a nice layer of grease on that to make it look like they did some reconditioning. Or chain lube, whatever you want to use. It looks like chain wax to me. Look at how dirty that rear hub is. Do you think they touched this thing at all? So after kind of evaluating the condition of the bike, you know, I started to look into the replacement parts. Because pretty much, I looked at the paperwork as well, and there's a document in there that says, if basically after the bike is sold, they are completely, you know, out of the picture in terms of liability. It's called an as-is form or something, I don't know, a bunch of legal stuff, but their legal documentation is pretty strong. So I knew if I called them the next morning, they wouldn't have brought the bike back. They wouldn't at all. So, you know, I thought I got screwed, basically. Well, I did, basically. So I thought I got screwed. And then, you know, I started looking up the value of the parts. So the oil pan, $200. The O2 sensor, the previous owner did not use anti-seize on the threads, which completely stripped that O2 sensor. That's another $200. So then we're at $400 just in repairs on the oil pan, let alone the rest of the bike from the condition that you just saw. So then new oil, so 3 quarts of oil, and a new filter, add that on as well, new crush washer, all that just to get the oil pan situation fixed. So, you know, I started talking with some of my friends, and really the only way to get to some companies is to just blast them on social media. So Facebook, Google, Yelp. I pretty much posted a review listing the exact details and pictures of the exact situation, and then I got a call from the regional district manager. So the regional district service manager, actually a very nice guy. He calls me up, he says, hey, we saw your reviews, it's completely unacceptable. You know, there were a lot of changes in our service department at the time that your bike was going through there, and this is completely unacceptable. I've ridden for 30 years, and if I bought a bike like this, I'd be upset as well. And not only that, but we are not proud that we sold you a bike in that condition. So he said, what can we do to fix the situation? And I told him, well, I have rusted brake pads. I told him I have an oil pan with a leak. I told him that the coolant is low. I told him that the brake fluid is black. I told him pretty much everything, that the bike was barely even touched. It was completely filthy, and I have an oil leak. And he's like, listen, that's not okay. Please bring the bike back as soon as you can, and we're gonna take care of you and get this thing in pretty much brand new, as best condition as we possibly can, and then bring the bike back to you. So Del Amo came to my house to pick up the bike. They had it in the shop for probably a week and a half. They were keeping me updated through text messages, which I really appreciated. And they called me up, they said, hey, it's ready. So I Ubered down there to go get the bike, and I inspected it. And here's what the bike looked like when I got it back into my hands. All right, guys, so we got the FJ09 back from the dealership. So let's check out the condition that they gave it back to me with. So starting off with the rear caliper, they did put EBC sintered pads on there, which is actually really nice instead of throwing on another set of OEM pads, as OEMs are not that great. Rear brake reservoir, they did put fresh brake fluid in there and did a bleed. So the rear brake feels very nice. I wrote it back from the dealership. They threw on the exhaust back on. We did get a new O2 sensor since that's stripped from the previous owner not using any Loctite. And this is a brand new oil pan and does not have the corner shaved down because the guy didn't know how to install the exhaust. So the oil, you can see right there, that is fresh oil. It is not too full, it's just the bike is at an angle on the lift. It's actually right in at the perfect level. So they did change the oil, so we have a brand new filter in there, brand new oil. Let's see what else. Overall, I mean, the bike, it looks clean. They actually cleaned the bike. Everything looks very nice, shiny, you know, as you'd expect when you purchase a bike off of the showroom floor, whether it's used or new. Let's look at the front wheels. So the front wheel, we do have rust on the inner portion of the rotor and the ABS sensor, but it's really not a big deal. The rotors themselves look like they're in good shape, so this is just a cosmetic you know, thing at this point. I didn't expect them to give me new rotors, but they did put on some EBC sintered pads for both front calipers, which is nice. Not going OEM again, so on the ride home I did feel a lot of bite, which was good. And we do have some fresh brake fluid in the master cylinder, so they did a bleed as well, which is very nice. So overall, when I rode it home, the brakes felt sharp, they felt good. I don't love these tires, but it is what it is. We'll wear them out. And this exhaust system, so we're definitely going to be putting on a new exhaust system in the next episode. It is a Black Widow. It's the same system, but definitely in better shape. Clean up the look of this bike. Let's see, what else? Overall, I mean, there was all that grime on the rear set. The chain looks like it's in good condition. Everything's just tidied up. There is a little bit of you know, chain lube that did flick onto the engine casing from when I rode home. Not a big deal. And then when you go to the rear, I definitely cleaned up the rear axle. Everything looks nice and clean. And the chain is actually not in bad shape. Once it was really cleaned up, I don't see any rust marks. I'm definitely going to use kerosene to clean it because kerosene, at least in my opinion, is the best to clean your chain, as it gets everything off. It's incredible. So, yeah, they actually did a good job. Unfortunately, it had to, you know, it had to play out the way that it did for them to get them to fix the problems and, you know, put the bike in good condition for, you know, someone that did pay money for it. But I'm happy with how it turned out, and I definitely commend the dealership for, you know, making things right. So let's go back to the studio. So to summarize the video, I mean, that's what a bike should look like when you buy a used bike. It should not have, you know, low brake pads, you know, corrosion on the brake pads, rust. It shouldn't be dirty. Your chain should be clean. There shouldn't be any grease on the rear sets. You know, there shouldn't be an oil leak. The brake fluid shouldn't be black. Just a lot of little things that, you know, my advice to you next time buying a used bike is to really look at that bike from top to bottom, you know, in every little area, just to see what you're buying. Because pretty much a lot of these dealerships, they're just trying to get them in and get them out, make the sale, that's it. So do yourself a favor, check out those used bikes as much as you can, and to make sure, you know, that everything is in good condition before they sell it to you. I do want to say I appreciate Del Amo's response. I appreciate the service that they provided after finding out the fact that they did sell me a bike in that condition. I hate that I had to go about it in the way that I did, but sometimes that's the only way that you can reach big companies like this. I mean, Del Amo has, I think, 5 locations. So, you know, I do want to thank Del Amo for doing the right thing, taking the bike back and getting it in the shape, you know, that's safe and rideable. And other than that, now I have an FJ09 that is in good condition and I can ride it. We can also start working on it, adding some new parts and stuff like that. So I am, satisfied with the end result. Unfortunately, that's what I had to go through, but sometimes it just is what it is. When you want a bike that, is a little dirty, but you don't know that there's an oil leak because there wasn't a drop on the showroom floor. Sometimes these things do happen, and overall I'd say it did end up working out in the end, even though I had to go through those different avenues to get it done. But I just want to share you the experience. Del Amo, if you're watching this, I doubt it, but if you are, thank you for taking care of the bike. That was the right thing to do, and I do appreciate it. So with that being said, that's going to close up this episode, part 2, which is being posted after part 3, but there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of moving pieces to get everything to film this video and to, tell the story correctly. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, just pay attention when you guys are buying a used bike. Del Amo, thank you again for taking care of that and doing the right thing. So if you liked the video, please drop a like, drop a comment down below. I respond to all the comments that I receive, and subscribe for the future episodes of the FJ09. We already got a bunch of parts just waiting to put on. So let's also hit that 2,000 subscriber mark. We're so close. So we'll see you next time, and ride safe, guys.